Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into something kind of wild.
Always up for a wild ride, especially with the stuff we explore here. What do we have today?
So, we're tackling this text, the Dharmica Gene, and let me tell you, it's a doozy. Yeah, we usually think of the universe like random, right? Just chaos, stuff happening.
Yeah, kind of the standard model, scientifically speaking, at least.
Right, exactly. But this text throws that out the window. It's like, what if there's the plan, a purpose baked into everything?
Okay, now that's intriguing. A whole different meta-narrative for existence. I'm listening.
That's exactly it. A whole new metastory. And it starts by rethinking the Big Bang. Not just some random explosion, but this unfolding from pure existence, what they call sat.
Sat, meaning?
Being. Like the most fundamental isness there is. And that unfolds into the reality we experience, which they call Uta, the cosmic order, the truth of things.
Okay, so how do they connect those ideas?
Well, they use this analogy, right? Sat, that pure being. It's like a perfectly still pond. Then Uta, that's the ripples when you throw a pebble in. The universe coming alive, motion, change, all that jazz.
I like that. Elegant way to visualize it. So are we talking straight up ancient philosophy here, or does this Dharmic Gene thing tie into modern science at all?
Oh, it gets even wilder. They use all these Sanskrit terms, and not just to sound cool, although they do kind of sound cool.
I was just thinking that.
But these terms, they actually line up with some pretty cutting-edge science.
Yeah.
Like Hiranyagarbha, which means golden womb.
Okay, that's a new one. Golden womb. Sounds kind of mystical.
Right. But think about it, this point of unimaginable density containing the potential for everything. Sounds a lot like that singularity physicists talk about before the Big Bang.
Yeah, you're right, it does. It's like these ancient ideas are resonating with the latest scientific discoveries. Pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Totally. And there's more. They even talk about the universe breathing, expanding, and contracting, creation and destruction in cycles.
They don't use the term big crunch, do they?
No, they call it Brahmada, the breathing cosmos.
The breathing cosmos. I like it. It has a nice ring to it. Yeah. It really captures that cyclical nature of existence, doesn't it?
It does. And this whole cosmic dance idea, it's not just about stars and galaxies, it's about us too. How we fit into this whole grand scheme of things.
And that's where things get really interesting. How D.O. we fit into all of this.
That's the million-dollar question. And the Dharmica Gene has some pretty mind-blowing answers. But we're going to have to save that for after the break, so don't go anywhere.
So where were we? Oh, right, the million-dollar question, how we fit into this whole cosmic dance. Well, the Dharmic Gene suggests it all comes down to perception. How we see the world, literally and figuratively, shapes everything.
Okay, so it's like we each have our own lens, and that's coloring how we experience reality.
Exactly. They have this term for it, do, which means sight or perception, and it's presented as this key to unlocking a deeper understanding of, well, everything. But there's a catch.
There's always a catch. So what is it? Our senses can't be trusted.
It's more nuanced than that. It's not that our senses are lying to us, but they can only show us so much. Our minds then take that limited information and try to make sense of it all, right? And that's where things can get a little messy.
Okay, so it's like our brains try to fill in the gaps, and sometimes we end up with an incomplete or even distorted picture of reality.
Precisely. The Dharmic Gene calls this Maya, which is often translated as illusion. Think of it like a magic trick. What appears to be real is often a clever manipulation of perception.
I'm starting to feel like I'm living in the Matrix here. So, if our perception of reality can be so easily skewed, how do we even begin to see things as they really are?
That's where that ancient principle you mentioned earlier comes in, yata peta brahmant, as in the microcosm, so in the macrocosm, and vice versa.
Right, the microcosm and the macrocosm. I remember that. But how does that help us see through the illusions, the Maya?
Because it reminds us that everything is connected. The vast universe is reflected in the smallest particles, even within ourselves. The answers we seek outside are also within.
So instead of looking out into the vastness of space, we should be looking inward at ourselves.
Precisely. And this inward journey is deeply connected to the idea of pran.
Pran, isn't that like breath or life force?
Yes. It's the vital energy that flows through everything, connecting us all. The text describes it as the Atman, the individual soul or essence, merging with Brahman, the universal essence.
So it's like each of us is a tiny reflection of the whole universe, containing within us the essence of everything.
Exactly. We are both individual expressions of consciousness and part of a larger interconnected web of being. And that brings us to the heart of the Dharmic Gene's argument. the concept of Dharma.
Okay, Dharma. That word gets thrown around a lot, but I'm not sure I fully understand it. How does the Dharmika Gene use that term?
Well, in this context, Dharma represents a force beyond individual survival. It's about recognizing that we're part of something larger than ourselves and acting in alignment with that greater whole.
So it's not just about each of us looking out for number one, but recognizing our interconnectedness and acting accordingly.
Exactly. It's like imagine a school of fish swimming together. Each fish has its individual purpose, but they also move in sync for the well-being of the entire school. Dharma is that synchronicity, that harmony in action.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So if Dharma is about recognizing our interconnectedness and acting for the benefit of the whole, then what role does individual action, Carmen, play in all of this? Because I feel like those two concepts could be seen as contradictory. Like if everything is connected and we're all part of this grand cosmic dance, then do our individual choices really matter?
That's a great question, and it's something the Dharmic Gene addresses directly. It's not about individual action versus collective good. It's about understanding that the two are intertwined. Every choice we make, no matter how small, sends ripples out into that interconnected web of existence. Our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for the whole.
So it's like that butterfly effect thing. Like even the smallest flap of a butterfly's wings can eventually cause a hurricane on the other side of the world.
Exactly. The Dharmic Gene argues that we're not just passive participants in this cosmic dance. We have agency. We have the power to choose our steps, and in doing so, influence the direction of the dance itself.
That's a lot of responsibility. But it's also incredibly empowering, knowing that we have the power to make choices that ripple outwards and contribute to the evolution of the whole shebang. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. But it also begs the question, how do we even begin to align our actions with Dharma? How do we make choices that benefit not just ourselves, but the entire web of life? That seems like a pretty tall order.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? How do we actually live this Dharmika life? It all sounds great in theory, but how do we translate it into action? Well, one thing the Dharmic Gene emphasizes is the importance of understanding our own minds. Like, before we can even begin to change the world, we have to understand ourselves, right? Our own biases, our motivations, all of that.
It's like that saying, know thyself.
Exactly. Yeah. Self-awareness is key. It's like cleaning a room, you know? Got to clear out the clutter, get rid of the old stuff to make room for the new.
I like that. So it's about decluttering our minds, getting rid of those limiting beliefs and thought patterns that are holding us back from living in alignment with Dharma.
Right on. And the text also points out that this isn't a solo mission. We need each other. We need community, connection, support, especially when things get tough.
Yeah, totally. We're not meant to do this alone. It's like, imagine trying to climb Mount Everest without a Sherpa or a team to back you up. You need those people who challenge you, inspire you, and help you up when you fall.
100%. We need those mirrors to help us see ourselves more clearly, those companions on the path to remind us why we started climbing in the first place.
Speaking of stories and journeys, one thing that really struck me about the Dharmic Gene is how it's not just presenting a bunch of ideas, it's telling a story, a new kind of creation story for humanity.
It's true. And stories have power. They shape how we see the world, how we understand ourselves, even how we act.
It's like we're hardwired for stories, right? Our brains crave narratives. And if we keep telling ourselves the same old stories, the stories of separation, competition, scarcity, that's what we're going to keep creating in our lives and in the world.
But here's the cool part. We have the power to change the story. We can choose to engage with different narratives, like the one presented in the Dharmic Gene, and let those stories reshape our understanding of what's possible.
So it's not just about reading a book. It's about choosing to see the world through a new lens, to embody these Dharmika principles in our own lives, and to contribute to a new, more empowering story for humanity.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're not just passive characters in a story that's already been written. We have the power to pick up the pen, so to speak, and rewrite the narrative with each choice we make.
That is both incredibly exciting and a little daunting, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, if we really have that much power, where do we even begin? What does it actually look like to live a Dharmika life, day in and day out, amidst the chaos and uncertainty of the real world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I don't think there's one right answer, but I think the Dharmic Gene offers us a good place to start. It's about paying attention, being present, and making choices that align with our deepest values and aspirations. It's about recognizing our interconnectedness with all things and acting in ways that benefit the whole, not just ourselves.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of this grand, cosmic dance, and choosing to move in a way that creates more harmony, more beauty, and more joy, both for ourselves and for everyone around us. And that's a story I can get behind. So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Dhārmika Gene. We hope it sparked your curiosity and maybe even inspired you to explore these ideas further in your own life. And who knows, maybe by changing our stories, we can change the world. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep dancing.